Rory Silva says, hey Chuck, you can use a fully loaded Mac Mini M4 or wait for the M5 to run large local models privately at $0 per month. So I do have a fully loaded M4. I also have a PC with a NVIDIA 5090 graphics card in it. So I'm able to run like pretty decent local models. And so far the ones that I tested just aren't anywhere near as good as Claude Opus. And so that's why I use Opus, but I'm definitely keeping an eye on the local models. I think in a year or two, we're gonna have like Opus level models that run locally, and I will 1000% be doing it that way. But for now, I'm just practicing proper data hygiene and making sure that I don't upload any passwords or anything to Claude, but it's able to do everything I need right now. Trey says, anyone can spin up a website in less than 10 minutes with Claude code and build automations without realizing a lawsuit is ready to happen when it goes in the real world with no compliance or ISO regulation implemented. Yeah, this is something I've thought about a lot, because as the owner of a company who sells websites, my first thought with all this AI stuff is like, okay, AI is just going to replace us all like in 2 months. And in some ways, I think that's true, but in other ways not. And so a good analogy, at least I think, is like compare somebody who's hammering nails with a hammer versus somebody who's using a nail gun. A nail gun allows you to install a lot more nails a lot faster than anybody with a hammer, even those people who are super fast at it. But a homeowner with a nail gun is not going to build a house better than a contractor with a hammer. But imagine the contractor with the nail gun. And so the analogy is like, yes, it's easier than ever to build like an average or mediocre website, 100%. But the experts have the same tools. And so the websites and the marketing they're doing are just 10 times better and faster than they were before. And so if you use AI to do what was working a year ago, you're not going to keep up with the people using AI to do what they're capable of doing these days. So besides the whole regulation and like possible lawsuit and compliances thing, a contractor, like a regular person who doesn't know how to build websites, they will be able to learn and to do it a lot faster than before, but the real results are still going to go to the people who know what they're doing, if that makes sense. The Matt Simmons asks, what's this database that Claude is using? Is it something you created, like one big file drawer? What did you do to set up your database for Claude to reference? So I used a Postgres database. And if you don't know what that is, go ask Claude, because that's what I did. You know, I asked Claude, hey, how can I do what I'm trying to do? How can I give you access to all this? And it said, well, you need a database. And so I asked it, well, what are my options for databases? And it gave me a whole bunch of options. And I read about it and I learned about it. And I ended up going with Postgres because it's one of the most robust options, one that used to be only used by large corporations who like could handle the technology. But with AI at your side, anybody can spin up a Postgres database in no time. It doesn't mean that I am not telling you to go spin up a database really quick, put all of your data in it, and then give AI access. You can do that, but there's risks associated. And if you don't understand the risks, then you should spend time figuring that out. How, you might ask? Go ask Claude. What are the risks? What's the proper way to do this? Sometimes I like to ask it, what would a computer engineer expert database admin do? And it'll tell me, and then I'll do it that way. And so I've learned a lot of what I know about security, databases, just all of this stuff. I learned it from asking Claude and doing it and testing things out and trying it and deleting it and trying it again and deleting it. And it's just something, if you want to learn this stuff, you can. It's never been easier, but there's no skipping that stage. Like, you need to learn and understand this stuff, or you're gonna probably get yourself in trouble, end up sending nudes to the president or something. Don't do that. This is this isn't even AI related. Joshua Morrison, on the video I made about like if I was starting a remodeling company, what I would do. One of the things I talked about was going door to door, and in going door to door, I recommend just looking the best you can, wearing a uniform, having branded clothes, just looking professional, looking standard, so that if people see you multiple times over weeks or months, you always look the same, they recognize you. Josh says, great video, but there's nothing wrong with a man looking like a hardworking man and wearing rough work clothes. I don't think there's anything wrong with looking like that, but if you're knocking on doors of people you don't know, looking like you covered in paint and drywall mud and holes in your clothes and no branded clothing, they're gonna wonder what the hell you're doing on their property. So it's a perception thing. I'm not making any judgment on what's right and wrong. I'm just focusing on what's effective for getting customers and getting some money coming in. This was on the warning about Angie leads video. As the old car salesman used to say, there's an ass for every seat. If you gave out your debit card information for a job, you have bigger problems than you think. I agree in that I would never pay for anything, sign up for a subscription, Netflix, nothing with a debit card. My debit cards almost never leave my house unless I'm going to go to an ATM. I always use a credit card because if there's fraud on your credit card and you call your bank and you flag it as fraud, they go after it because it's their money on the line. If there's fraud on your debit card and someone takes money out of your account, sure, the bank will help you, but it's, from my experience, it's a lot slower process, and like, it's your money, it's not the bank's money, so the bank doesn't care as much. There's really no reason to not use a credit card unless you can't control yourself and you just spend more than you should. But like, if you're able to keep that thing paid off, like 1,000%, you should be using a credit card. Pay it off every month, use the airline miles or the cashback rewards, and then if there is some kind of fraudulent charge or anything, it's really, really easy to deal with. Cynthia says, I just don't understand what you mean by you plugged Claude into your bookkeeping software. How do you get AI to see your database? Is it an upload? Is it granting permissions? Is it syncing? I don't know what you mean. So the best advice I could give anybody who has this question is to just go ask Claude or GPT, whatever you're using. Like, you could literally just type this in and it will give you an answer that helps you move towards a solution. As far as how I gave AI or Claude access to my bookkeeping, in one situation I downloaded a CSV spreadsheet from my bank and another one from the bookkeeping software. I deleted most of the stuff in there and left a list of dates and transactions, and then I put it all into Claude and I asked Claude to help me figure out if there was anything missing in either sheet. So in that situation, I grabbed the data myself and I put it into Claude. Very controlled, very safe way to do it. I knew exactly what Claude was getting. One and done. Another method is to use an API key and create a program that lets Claude actually use an API to go into the bookkeeping software. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, then this is probably a little above your pay grade and you don't want to venture into this yet. But you can ask Claude or your AI what this means and what the risks are, and then decide what to do from there. So there's multiple ways to do it. I also mentioned in that video a database. So this is like a middle ground. I didn't want to give Claude access to the actual bookkeeping software because there's a whole lot of data in there. And so I created a program or an app that takes select data out of the bookkeeping software and puts it onto my computer in a database. I could have put it into a spreadsheet. I could have put it anywhere. I put it into a database. And then I could give Claude access to that database. And similar to the first example, I know what's in that database. It's not everything. It's just the data that I want Claude to work with. And so that's like a middle ground that's easier than, maybe not easier to set up, but it's more efficient than me grabbing spreadsheets and feeding them into Claude. Now I just have this database that stays up to date on certain information from my bookkeeping, and Claude's able to work with it. So there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat, but those are 3 of them. And as always, go ask AI how this stuff works. Ask it to explain it to you like you're 5 years old, and just start learning this stuff.